Hey friends, Lisa Marie Robinson here, your host of Cash and Sass. Over the next few weeks, I'm switching things up and sharing something special with you. I've had the privilege of being invited onto some incredible podcasts and shows to share my take on money, mindset, and building wealth with confidence. Why? Because people are hungry for these conversations, and I'm honored to be a guest expert they call on. So think of this as your all access pass. You'll get to hear me in the hot seat answering questions, dropping gems, and keeping it real. Consider this your proof that Cash and Sass message is spreading far and wide, and now you get to come along for the ride. You're listening to Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, your go-to gal for all things money. As the Sassy Wealth Queen and the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach, I'm here to take you on a thrilling ride from the financial chaos to sassy and sexy money.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, for listening. On today's podcast, I have Lisa, so I just want to thank you for coming on and joining us and talking about all things money.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I think everybody has a money story. Even the people that say they don't have a money story has a money story. So I would love it if you would share with the audience what your money story has been.
My money story started off with a very hate relationship, I guess. I didn't like money. I thought money was only for the rich and greedy. Is the talk I had. And part of that was because I grew up, we hear stories, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. I heard stories that were around me were, if you didn't come from money, you don't marry into money, you're never going to have money. All of our generations, we work, we pay bills, we work, we pay bills. So it's wash, rinse, repeat. And so I had this mindset and this money story of that, right? Of I didn't come from money, I'm not going to have any. And then had the money story of money was only for certain people, certain tiered people, and I wasn't it. And then anytime I would come into money because of that, shit would happen. I was like, oh, okay, I do have but subconsciously, because I had it in my brain, in my head, and my thoughts, that wasn't always something that always would happen and money would disappear. And then fast forward, trying to make ends meet, married, right before we even had our first kid. So been through a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, foreclosure, and then another foreclosure after having kids. So, constant battle with money, right? Constant battle with, how do I do this? How am I doing this? What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
What am I getting wrong that everybody else is getting right? Why, and it's why this, why that. And then one day, fast forward a little bit, still doing that struggle, determined to figure it out, determined, okay, there has to be more. This can't be all I'm put on earth for, right? And I was let go in 2016 from my corporate job, where I was barely making ends meet. I had migraines, I had tension headaches, I was miserable. I was on the verge of I swear I was on the verge of a mental breakdown. And in that process, when I got let go, I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And this voice just said, now or never. My best friends came and told me, you're going to do exactly what you've been wanting to do, what you've always wanted to do, what you didn't think was in the cards for you. And that was start my own business. And of course, I didn't look like what it looks like now as me as a fractional CFO. But I went head first in. I dove in, and something about me is like, once I make up my mind, that's it. And still went into business with that mentality, not knowing better. And a year into it, I couldn't figure out why I was still struggling, why I didn't have any money. And, I was on food stamps when I started my business because, again, I was barely making ends meet. But I was determined, to get off, because, again, people tell you once you get on the state assistance, you're never getting off on those things. Right. And she's a mentor. She doesn't realize she's a mentor, someone I've met on Facebook. And she said something that literally changed my life, sent me down this rabbit hole of money stories, money mindset, the whole kit and caboodle. And she asked us if we had a love relationship or a hate relationship with money.
Mm.
Like, what was our relationship with money? I said, what do you mean? You have a good relationship with your best friend, your spouse. Do you have a
Yeah.
good relationship with money? And I'm like, what? And I was like, I guess, and she said, well, do you hate money? I was like, I don't hate money.
But I do.
I didn't think I did, though. That was
Of
the
course not.
thing.
Of course
I
not.
never said I hated money. I just never had it. Right.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
always grew up hearing we're broke. We're broke. We can't do this. Money doesn't grow on trees, yada, yada, all those things. And she said, oh, really? She says, do you say thank you when you pay a bill?
Yeah.
And my response was, why in the hell would I say thank you when paying a bill? Which many of the listeners are probably thinking the exact same thing. And she said, well, why not? She said, let me put it another way. Someone treated you like absolute crap over and over and over again, didn't respect you, didn't appreciate you, would you come back? No. Then why would money?
Yeah.
Though that little thing right there was like light bulb. She's not talking about it as a person, not
Yep.
talking about loving money over God and all that. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about being appreciative of what it's doing, being appreciative of receiving it, and knowing that it flows through us, and that's how the world goes round, right? It was a light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
And that sent me down this huge at first. Like, literally, I put my head down and someone went and just flipped me over. And I just nose in and realized that, oh, my money story is I'll never have money because I didn't come from money. And because I didn't marry into money, I never came from it. I'm never going to have it. So therefore, I'm blocking it because I don't deserve it because it wasn't high tiered or wasn't in this wealthy, whatever the things are. And our society doesn't help matters, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, what can I do to change it? And so then I went and started reading more books and more books. And believe it or not, there are a lot of books out there. And it did something to me. I was like, okay, I know from an accounting background that it's important to have numbers in order, yada, yada. The mindset obviously plays something because I had a good business that first year, but I'm still broke. How does this correlate together?
Mm-hmm.
And it changed everything. I went from not saying thank you to saying thank you every time I pay a bill, saying thank you when I put gas in my vehicle. Thank you that I have the money in my account to put gas in my vehicle. Thank you, and I'm being, and at first it sounded really weird. And now but I took a deep breath and was like really genuine.
Yeah.
And I do it when I go to the grocery store, and I'm very genuine now because it's very easy sometimes to get frustrated with the prices of groceries or whatever. So I make sure I take a breath and just go, thank you.
Yeah.
Because I had the money. Because one, I know what it's like not to, right?
Yeah.
And I was able to change my story. I was able to change my relationship with money from really, really bad, hating it, not realizing that I hated it. When hate is a really bad word, by the way. I tell my kids, you're not allowed to hate anything. We don't say that. And to having a really respectful, good relationship with it, understanding that it is energy, it's not good or bad, it's what we as people do with it.
Yeah. I love that you shared that because I think that when you said, well, I didn't know that I hated it or didn't like it, I think a lot of women would say the same thing, right? Like I don't hate money, but we put up a wall or resistance around it when we look at someone that has money and we either say like what you did, that can't be me, or, oh, look at that person, or we judge them, or, and so we do this, like you said, subconsciously. And I'm curious, how did you, I know there's the books and then what I call like the 3D, there's all that, the mindset stuff, but how did you get into your body to start? Because I really think also for women, we have to feel safe with money. And in the beginning, money is not a safe thing for us if we have, that less loving relationship with money.
You know how the thing in the memes with the entrepreneurship that says, "If you hear me talking to myself and myself answers back, don't worry, it's just my business having a team
Yeah.
meeting." Okay, that was basically what was happening as I would literally talk out loud to
Yeah.
myself,
Yep.
telling her, my body, it's okay
Yep.
to have money. It's okay to have this business. It I'm worthy of it. There are a lot of women out there who have their own business. There's a lot of women who are successful. And then I would show examples
Mhm.
like and I would do actors, whoever, Goldie Hawn, I would just name all these people. And then I did research and found out that, there are several of them who failed 50,000 times before they succeeded. And I would literally put that on Oprah Winfrey. She was denied like boom coons of times before she got her first thing on the
Mhm.
show. And then she got her own show. She didn't wake up just one day and be Oprah Winfrey and we all knew her.
Yeah.
And having that and just every day, it's kind of like pep talking, right?
Yep.
But pep talking, because what you're doing is you're retraining your brain,
Mhm.
not only the mindset part with the books and all, but I believe that, people are saying, oh, read these affirmations. Say, I believe the affirmations need to be posted and we're saying them out, writing them, but then also saying them out loud.
And also, I think I'd add one more thing to that, if our body believes it. So if you don't believe that, sometimes people will be like, I generate $100,000 a year. If your body's like, no, 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 but using more like, I'm in the process, or I'm in the middle of my $100,000 year, I'm in the middle of generating or having $1 million in our investment accounts, things like that. You've got to really tweak it to what your body feels, because if your body is backing away and being like, the hell you say, the affirmations aren't going to work. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's true because the
Yeah.
affirmations are only going to work to a certain point.
Yep.
Here's the thing. Last year, I realized, oh, my business could just before we went to Phoenix Rising, okay? I realized, right there in the 2023, my business could just catapult. Like all these things could, just be awesome. It's right around July, August of 2023. And oh, 500K, 600, it's possible. And I didn't realize what happened, but my body went into, oh, hell no.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one thing to be six figures. You're talking about going up to half a million. The half a million, not multiples. Because one thing, multiple six figures, that's
Yeah.
300K, right?
Yeah.
Half a million. My brain just went, and I didn't realize it until the last year of Phoenix Rising in the business that and I also believe that sometimes you have to go through that
Yeah.
because what came from there was deeper healing that needed to be done, transition needed to be done, or as my coach calls it, you needed to pull all those weeds out of that garden. You needed to burn the entire ground down, and you had to you had to burn it, and you had to replant, because sometimes you have to burn a garden by the I didn't know this, learned it, that you have to burn it in order to replant. And of course, I don't want to go through all that to navigate and tweak the business, pivot and grow. I want to just pivot and go, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's not how God, source,
Yeah.
universe, whoever wanted it to go. And I subconsciously sabotaged. I'm not going to say it's my fault. And I subconsciously sabotaged to where all of a sudden I was well, go say it. I had debt for the first time in my business to keep my business going. And it's because part of the reason is because there were things that happened out of my control, and how I reacted to them was because of some of those underlining beliefs.
Yeah.
So like we have to do the work, and sometimes we find out we have to go deeper than we've gone before in order to grow even more. And that was one of the things I had to learn over the year last year.
Yeah. I talk about this all the time of like, we all have a financial thermostat, and I am a big proponent of going slow because your nervous system, if you break that financial thermostat too fast, you will, it's almost like a rubber band. It will just go back. And I think that that's what you're explaining, Lisa, is what happened, right? The mind thinks, oh, it's amazing, 500,000, but the body's like, no, 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 that doesn't feel safe. I don't know what that feels like on a consistent basis. No, 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 no. What are we going to do to keep you safe? And like you said, subconsciously, we don't do this on purpose, but it happens because our nervous system hasn't had the capacity of having or generating that amount of money yet. And I think we idolize all of this overnight success and growing quickly. But if you haven't done the nervous system work to be able to be that person, that 500,000 is just what you do every single year. That's just who you are. Then you will rebound back to what you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I did is my coach even had me do it. One of the things that I did is I started writing a letter from my future self. What
Mhm.
would it be like? Who, if I made 500,000, once
Yep.
I got to, what would that feel like? Who
Yep.
would I be? How would I act? Like, and just write how I would dream about it so that my nervous system is going, oh, I'm still going to be safe. I'm just going to do more good and my kids are going to be taken care of. And okay, this isn't going to be, detrimental to my health and those
Yeah.
kind of things. Because the key is subconsciously our nervous system is wanting to keep us safe. But a lot of times what it does by keeping us safe is it keeps us in place instead of us growing. And we have to be able to remind our nervous system, this is okay. This is safe. This is, yes, I'm a little nerve wracked and this is still safe. And so it's I think of it as an equal balance, if that makes sense. Part of the thing with me is I believe knowledge is power.
Me too.
I say this constantly. You and I've talked about this.
Hmm.
I believe knowledge is power. So for my brain, in order to help my mindset, okay, where are my numbers? How can I make this safe? How can I be in control to put money up where I want it to be, to do the things I want it to, so that my nervous system can see that I am safe. I'm doing this and the money's there and we're all, and so that's where the mindset, the wealth coaching, where the mindset and the fractional CFO come in hand is I combined it because I'm like, okay, knowledge is power. Now I've got this and my mind can see it. And now it's also showing proof. Like,
Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey is showing another proof that, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm a big, uh, I'm passionate about it, I guess, of saying, knowledge is power. You've got, that's the way you're able to help calm that nervous system too.
Yeah. Yeah, big proponent. I want to say familiar is very different than safety, right? We think familiar isn't always the best thing for us, but safety as we're moving and evolving, very different. And I think also I want to go back to what you said about, writing the letter from your future self. And that's what I did, when we were, accumulating, generating or having more money and building our wealth. And I was like, who am I going to be when I have $1 million? It's like, oh, there's lots of things that are going to be still the same. I'm still going to take my kid to school. I'm still going to make her lunch. Like we idolize or fantasize about, oh, when we get that all these things will be different. It's like you're just going to have more choices, really. But a lot of the things that we do are still going to be the same. And so I think that that's really important to like, what are the things that are actually going to stay the same, even if you generate or have more money? So let's dive into fractional CFO. Like, what is that? How do you help clients? Give us all the details on that.
Okay, so a fractional CFO is a CFO first is a chief financial
Yeah.
officer. So big corporations have chief financial officers inside their company who go over all their numbers. Again, knowledge is power. So
Yep.
they need to know the figures, the estimates. If we do this, what's the projection for this, and all those things. And a fractional CFO is basically the same thing, uh, slightly smaller scale, but basically the same thing for smaller businesses. So I'm not inside your business full time. However, I'm still your fractional CFO to where I get in your business. I know your numbers. I help you basically navigate your money. So I work with women who are at that 250K plus mark where I say that they're on this hamster wheel, they're making the money, but
Mm.
they're not quite seeing what's possible, where are the results. They're wanting to get to that next level, but they're constantly plateaued. And they're not seeing the profit they want to see, or they're not sure what's going on and how to do those things. And I'm able to come in and help them create a system so that we can do projections. We can see what's going on with their money. We know what their monthly expenses are. We know what, okay, if something was to happen, do we have a rainy day savings? What would it take to have a rainy day savings, right? Because there are things that's happened in this world that we have no control over that has proven we should have a rainy day savings. I don't call it an emergency savings because then my brain goes, "Oh, an emergency is going to happen." No, we call it rainy day because rainy days always happen and
Yep.
it's no big deal. Emergency is like the brain just goes,
It's like you're planning for it. I mean,
right.
that's like in financial planning. It was always like an emergency savings. I'm like, I'm always planning for an emergency. I just have a having account. I just have
Yeah,
money
I
if I
call
need it,
it
if I want to use it.
in the business, I call it a rainy day savings. In personal, I don't have one. I have multiple savings accounts. They're for
Yeah.
specific things, and they're like, so you don't have it. And no, because what I deem as an emergency or what you deem as an emergency, when something happens, our brains are going to say, "Oh, that's an emergency. We're going to touch it." And then when something really big happens, we're not going to have it.
Yeah.
So I have accounts for specific things. But, working with me, what we do is we go in and we create the system. And the cool thing about what I do is I don't create a system like a cookie cutter system. I create we call it a money roadmap dashboard. I create this dashboard. Yes, the shell of it's basically the same, but by the time we get done, it's built just for you and your business and your lifestyle. So your goals, right? Your desires. Because one of the things that I've realized over the last year, especially with mine. It's so funny because I changed how I was doing this. It's like, oh, nobody's going to stick to these things if it's not aligned with their values and their desires
Yes.
and their goals.
Yep.
And last year, my values and goals and desires early last year changed. Oh, I wonder why Phoenix started when I was still going the same direction, but my values and goals, literally, y'all, it happened. I had to learn my own lesson of what I teach to my clients. So, when your goals and your desires and your values are not aligned, something happens. And it's the reason why I created the 5 wealth codes. And the 5 wealth codes are spiritual, energetic, mental, physical, and financial. And they all intertwine. They all affect each other.
Yeah.
And if we're living our wealthiest life in those 5 areas, we'll be able to be truly wealthy, and which means have more money financially, right? And do the things that we want to do and give back however we want to give back. And when one of those gets out of alignment, guess what happens? Like a domino effect.
Mhm.
And what a fractional CFO is able to do, sometimes when we're in the thick of it, we don't see what's right there. And as a fractional CFO, you can come to me and say, "Oh, I'm thinking about doing this and this." Well, I'm going to look at several different scenarios because I'm from the outside of the windshield looking in, and we're going to figure out what's the best way. Okay, what's the best direction? How can we do this? I tell my clients my sole goal is to cover your butt so that no matter what you do, you and your business are safe and it doesn't come back and bite you.
Yeah.
And I that's the goal. I've taken several clients from 250K, 300K, 400K to above 7 figures. I've supported them in doing that, and we've been able to do that because of how we've navigated the things that happen. Because y'all, the bigger business you get, what is it? They say the bigger the business, the bigger the problems.
I'm just like, it's like just more business and more problems is all that it is. You're just amplifying all the stuff that's already there.
The more money you make,
Yeah.
the bigger the business, the bigger the problems. And they're only going to be bigger, though, to take over if you're not having the things
Yep.
to help you, navigate, right? And, here's the thing. You can be good at money, okay? You can look at the number. But when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a CEO of your business and you're navigating all these things, you're likely not to pay attention to some of the things.
Yeah, well, I also wrote down you're probably really emotional about it too. There's so much. I mean, we started off with like, what's your money story? And it's also like, if you haven't really cleaned up or are really working through the emotional side that you have with money, $10,000 of investing in someone with a business, it's going to be 100,000. And you're going to be like, what happened? It's because you haven't cleared up that stuff that you have with money. And so you're emotional about it versus I think about like fractional CFO or CFO, it's just like, you're just looking at numbers. You're just like, here it is. Now, obviously you want to have emotion in terms of like, I value this. This is important to me, right? That is what you're saying. But getting squirrely around the numbers, they are just what they are. It's literally just math. And we have so many thoughts around math.
Well, and here's the thing. So many people go, "Oh, you're great at math." No, I'm not.
I love that you said that.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm horrible. My girls are a whiz at math. They're awesome at math. They do not get it from me. Okay. And you're going, oh crap, I don't want you to be a fractional CFO or whatever. Wait, I'm gonna because I asked my father-in-law when he was alive. I remember asking him. He was a physics professor and he's awesome at math. And I asked him, I said, how is it that people assume or say that if you're an accountant that you're great at math? He said, because they're mixing it up. He said, math is arithmetic and counting and numbers has nothing to do with arithmetic. He said, you're good at looking at the numbers and making things happen to where everyone's okay. He said arithmetic is just totally different. People just assume you got to be able to add in your head and do all these things in order
Yeah.
to make the numbers work. You don't. I have what's called an add machine.
But I
We'll
think
be just honest about it, okay?
but I think it's really important that you said that because I think people, like you're saying, like we don't need calculus. My kid's in 7th grade, but she's doing like 8th or 9th grade math now. And literally I'm like, Grayson, I don't remember that stuff. Like I'm going to have to learn it with you. But I know my financial calculator. I know how to add and subtract. And those are the things listen, ladies, if we can figure out how to start a business, how to figure out how to market, there's so many things we've had to figure out how to do to get to where we are. We can 100% learn how to add numbers, look at numbers. I think we owe that to ourselves. Like, I think we're shortchanging ourselves when we think that we're not capable of doing this. It's almost like this. I mean, even I think people have that story around math, like, well, I'm not good with math or numbers, so I'm not good in my business. It's like, no, you're not. That's not true. It's just, what have we been told that we, have been with numbers or money? And how do we want to change that narrative to make it more empowering for ourselves?
Yeah. And here's the thing, you know, I'm awesome with numbers. I'm awesome at
Yep.
doing what I do. And here's a perfect example. I had a client call today and she came on the call and she she was emotional. She was ready to burn it down. Like she was
Yeah.
done. She didn't know how this was going to work. She was tired. Every year it was one thing or this. And I let her get all those spiels out. And then I said, okay, let's look at your accounts. Let me get into the bank. Let me go look. And I said, oh, and y'all, I do this quite often with her. Okay. We've been working together for a while. And it was funny because she was like, I knew it. And I told her, I said, I'm good. Figured it out. I'm good. And it was over the last set of estimated taxes. And her business, we had been navigating some of the things. And one of the things that neither one of us had realized is that she'd curtailed her spending so much that we hadn't put enough into her tax savings account. However, we really did. We put money up, we just put it in a different account.
Yeah.
Okay. But her brain wasn't seeing it.
Yeah.
And so what happened was, is I said, I figured it because she was like, I'm not going to pull on a line of credit to go pay the estimated taxes. Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't want her to do that either. And I was like, okay, just hold on, just chill for just a minute. Figured it up. And I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And I told her what to transfer into the tax savings account. And boom, all the money was right there. And she goes, I knew it. I told, and this her two lead teams, I told them you had your work cut out for you today. I wasn't sure how you were going that you had your work cut out and that I was sure you'd figure out something, but I just wasn't sure how you were going to do it. And look at there. And she was awesome. And she was just like, "I'll give you any testimonial you want." Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't need to fall off the tracks. I'm not falling off. I'm right on track. I just need to take a moment to breathe. And I went, "I'm not going to let you fall off the tracks." She goes, "No, you're going to make sure my butt stays on the tracks. You're not going to let me fall off." I said, "Exactly. I'm not going to let you." So that's part of the fractional CFO, right? Is
Yep.
we're helping you navigate things so that you can one, take a deep breath,
Yep.
and then literally she went, "Okay, you know what? I'm okay. We're,
Yeah.
we've got that." I was like, she goes, "We're not derailing." I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, you're
Yeah.
not." And that's where it's similar to having a CPA or a tax advisor, right? Looking at those taxes. I don't do taxes. I have an enrolled agent who I've partnered with who she does those things. She's a tax advisor. She does that is her wheelhouse. That is her expertise. I don't want nothing to do with it. I have her as a partner because she's really good. That's her jam.
Yeah.
Okay. My jam is this, just like having a business coach. Their jam is to help you see what's possible so that you get out of your own way, right? And so that's where this it comes because normally if you're wanting to reach those high five figures, those or high six figures going into seven figures, you've got a goal, you've got dreams. You want to make sure your kids are taken care of or your grandkids are taken care of. You want to make sure you can give back. And you also want to make sure that you're taken care of, right? And so I'm able to come in and help you see how all those things can be done.
Yeah. And it's a lot of fun when you have someone like I've had a lot of women tell me like it's I want to be handheld, but not of like a baby, but just more so like it's fun to be with doing it with someone that sometimes in the beginning it feels a little scary. You're not quite sure versus having someone to hold your hand, to have fun, to enjoy the process, to flip the switch on being with your money and looking at your numbers. It's fun. And it's
It's
fun to have
never
someone.
boring with
Yeah.
me. Hey, come on. Pink hair, it's never boring with me. I mean, I promise. I'm gonna have you see the good in and I'll have you laughing in no time. It's
Yeah.
not it
Yeah.
and that's the thing is I remember being stressed and
Mhm.
crying
Yep.
all the time
Yep.
with money, like over money and the lack of and how stressed it made me and but it wasn't the money itself that was doing that.
Yeah.
It was those stories
Yep.
of how it was supposed to be and how society was telling me, especially as a woman, how society is supposed to be telling me I'm not supposed to know these things. And now, even with early 2024 being one of the hardest years in my 8 years of business, I still wouldn't do it differently.
Mm, mhm,
I still made more money than I ever made in corporate. And I still wouldn't do it differently.
mhm.
Even with it was difficult. You ask a lot of small businesses. 2024 was a very difficult year for business. And I still wouldn't do it differently.
Yeah.
And there are some who decided it wasn't for them, and that's okay. And if you know this and you go through this and you wouldn't do it any differently, meaning you would still have the business,
Yeah.
then let's make sure your numbers are being taken care of and let's make sure that one, you know what's going on with your money and you have a good relationship with money so
Yep.
that you can.
Yeah. Totally. Um, yeah, I agree 100%. So tell us 3 things or tips that you see on your side of the laptop that you probably see a recurring theme or pattern with your clients.
The first one is you don't know what's going on with your money.
Yep.
You don't
I
you
see
don't
that on my
you
yep.
don't know your numbers.
Yep.
And when I say that, you know how much money you bring in. But you don't know how much your monthly expenses are. You don't
Yeah.
know what your yearly expenses are. You don't know what's going on with your money.
Yeah.
Now, can I tell you how much my expenses are off the top of my head? No, but I can immediately pull up a spreadsheet and I can tell you.
Yes.
And it's that spreadsheet is updated constantly. Like
Yep.
every month it's updated and my clients would be able to do that now too because they have that money roadmap because knowing again, knowledge is power. That's the biggest thing. The second one, beating yourself up for
Mm.
past mistakes.
Yep.
Because we as women, we are awesome at giving other people grace,
Yep.
me included, by the way. But we are not so great at giving ourselves grace.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I had to learn, right? I could have, and for a while it did, the bankruptcy and the chapters, the bankruptcy and the foreclosures, and I could have let all of that stop me. I could have, and that was part of the problem. And I could have also let maybe the mistake I made at such and such stop me. Right? We're human.
Hmm.
We're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
It is just the way it works.
Well, that's how we learn. And I think in
Right.
school, we aren't taught to make mistakes. We're taught to get A's, get it perfect, right? Versus entrepreneurship. It's like, no, you learn by doing. And the way that you learn sometimes is it's a $5,000, $10,000, depending on the size of your business. I had a he and I used to work together at my family's construction business. He was like, Erin, it was like $60,000. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, understanding how insurance works is really important. And we learn it. I
And
mean, he had the money, but like we learn it through doing.
well, and one of the things that another mentor told me, that I worked with, in the healing process, um, he said, "Let's change it from it being a failure, but instead, this happened to me. Let's change it to where we're asking a question of what was I supposed to learn from this?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we change that question, and we really look at what did I learn from this? What was I supposed to get from this? And we learn and we realize, oh, okay. And it's funny because there was a reel a few days ago that came up. I can't think of the guy's name on Big Bang Theory. Sheldon. He's on the reel, and it says, "Me looking at God's plan for me." And he's flipping the pages and he's going, "Why? But why? Why?" And he flips it over 3 pages. "Oh, that's why." And sometimes those learning experiences we may not see, again, late 2023, early 2024, we may not see what I didn't see, what those learning experiences were, maybe until now, and even more going.
Yeah.
And they're changing it to, what am I supposed to learn from this? What was I supposed to learn from this? What am I supposed to get from this? Is a way to change it around to where it's not a negative thing, beating yourself up, and okay, what am I supposed to, and writing it down and seeing it as a positive thing. So now you've learned and you're able to move forward. And that's the biggest thing, is because we beat ourselves up and then we stop. Um, and the third thing is, give yourself credit. I mean, honestly, I know that's similar to not beat yourself up, but my coach even tells me, you don't give yourself enough credit.
Yeah.
You don't pat yourself on the back.
Yeah.
Yes, your client did this, but you supported her doing this. And it's like,
Yeah.
I celebrate the client. He's like, celebrate what you
Yep.
did, right? And doing those things, and just realizing, hey, I've got a business, I'm growing it, and I'm part of, a very small percentage. And okay, I did this and I've learned from it. And then, honest to goodness, please go know your numbers. I'm like, I can't stress that enough. Please go know what's going on with your money, because not knowing is
I think that creates more lack of
havoc.
safety or feeling of lack of, yeah, havoc, because it's like it adds to it. It's like what Lisa has said so many times is knowledge is power. It's like when you know it, you may not like it. That's okay. That you're okay to not like it. But knowing it gives you, I think, immediate power. Like a client of mine, we did the same thing. And she was like, I can't tell you how good I feel now just knowing where we are. And I'm like, I think we undervalue that exercise, because once you know, then you get to start making decisions. And then that leads to more, feelings of empowerment, because you're actually able to make sound decisions because you know where you are. And I would say if you're avoiding it, I would get curious of like, why? What am I afraid
Mhm.
of? Because I think a lot of women are like, okay, it's the scary little monster in the closet. But it's like once you actually open the closet and you have your breakdown, you're like, okay, there's nothing. I mean, it's all fixable. We can all work it out. Like,
Right.
and it just creates this almost like this momentum of it. You just don't look at your numbers and then you stay not looking at your numbers. And then it adds up and then it becomes this just huge snowball versus okay, every day or every week, like what is it that might be? And I always say start small. Like it might be, okay, every day on your calendar, I'm just going to log in to my QuickBooks or my bank account or however you want to do it. And I'm just going to see and feel what it feels like in my body to then work your way up to then start to look at that stuff. Because I think it's almost like going back to that rubber band that we were talking about. It's like you look at it and then you don't look at it for months again, right? So what is the going back to your number 3 or number 2, I can't remember. It's like, what's the most loving thing, right? Is the most loving thing to maybe just sit down or call a friend and say, hey, will you help me keep me accountable for the next month or two? I want to look at my bank statements every single X. And, asking yourself, like, what is the most loving thing I can do for myself in this moment?
One of the things I did is actually started, I have my bank on the bank app on my phone.
Yep.
And so I got in the habit of, okay, at least twice a week, I'm going to look at it.
Yep.
Now I go into my bank account at least 3, 4 times a week, sometimes every day. But I
Yeah.
get in the habit of just going in and looking at the balance, looking at the charges, because again, people are human,
Yep.
making sure what's supposed to come out, supposed to come out. I cannot tell you how many things I have caught because of that.
Yep.
Um, and it's just and doing what you said, how's this making me feel? And
Mm,
so even last year, I forced myself to go and look at my bank account
mm,
even when we were having the struggle because I knew if I didn't, because I had some of that popping up, I was like, nope, we got to keep this. We got to know that it's okay. How does this
yeah.
feel? Okay, why does it feel this way?
Mhm.
And just having that conversation with myself
Yeah.
and journaling. And my client did the same thing, by the way, the one we were talking about from this morning. She got off the phone right before we got off the phone. She says, okay, I can't tell you how I feel so much better. You've turned my mood completely around. I am ready to go now. I I no longer want to burn it to the ground, Lisa. It's like, okay, you know, and I didn't judge her for having those
Yep.
feelings, right?
Yep.
I
Yep.
listened, okay? And if you have someone who is not listening and who judges you, please run in the opposite direction
Yeah.
of them, because that's the key. I let her have her feelings. I let her feel them, right? I let her talk them out. I listened. I didn't say but this, but I listened. And then I said, okay, let's look at this and let's see what we've got first.
Yeah.
And then I, as she says, I worked my magic. I did
Mhm.
what I did, and she no longer she was like,
Yeah.
"Holy crap," just like your client. "Oh my gosh, I feel so much better knowing where I'm at
Yep.
and what direction we can go. Okay, this is breathable. This is doable. Okay, we're not, you know, tankering off into a deep end with sharks."
Because that is where the mind wants to go, right? I mean, I haven't
Right.
ever had a client that has just been like, "Oh, it's amazing." It's like it's always like doomsday, and it's like, "Hang on a second," exactly what you're saying, right? It's like you feel the feels, and then you're like, "Oh," it's almost like an exhale, and then you're just like, and we were also talking about it's almost like when the little toddler gets like stickers, like that's what it is for us. Like that's what we're doing for ourselves. We're building that love, that self confidence, that self trust that like I do what I'm say I'm going to do. And it's like, so when I say proud, I don't mean prideful. I mean like satisfied, right? Like you're so satisfied that you stuck to your plan. You did what you said you would do. Now look at how far you've come. I mean, that, like you said, that is to be celebrated. And I don't think that we do that enough.
No, we don't. We
Yeah.
don't. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. My coach asked me, asked all of us on our mastermind call what 2025 was to be a most amazing year. What would have happened, right?
Mm,
And so I have all this list, and then he goes, okay, and he says, and what would you personally be doing for you for it
mm,
to be an amazing year? And I went,
mm,
and he said, "That's okay." I said, "Can I get back to you on that?" He said, "Yep, and don't be surprised that that is what normally most of y'all will say. And I was like, and then he sent me a message saying, I want you to really think about this and get back to us and tell us.
Yeah.
Right. Because he's being serious, whether that's a trip for me and my best friend, what would happen for me
Yep.
personally, myself, thinking of me, taking care of me would happen for 2025 to be an awesome year. And I'm gonna be honest, that never crossed my mind to put that on my list.
Yeah.
And so we as women, we don't tend to look at those things that way. Only time we look at ourselves is when we think we've done something wrong and we're beating
Yep.
ourselves up.
Yeah.
And y'all, we're business owners. You're business owners. Look at what you've done.
Yeah. I mean, you literally have created, if you've made $1 in your business and anything over that, you have created something from nothing.
And
And
I mean, and I'm reminded that I did. You and I've talked about this.
Yeah.
I started my business with a vehicle being repossessed, no money to my name because again, my 401k had already been cashed, right? And like nothing.
Yeah.
And even on my hardest years, I still created this out
Yeah.
of nothing.
Yeah.
I created a business out of nothing. And that is something to be proud of and something to be said. And if you're a business owner and you've got a toddler and you got a baby, you've created a business and taking care of those so that you can be home with them and not have them in daycare. Y'all, hey, look, pat yourself on the back, please, because I know what the cost of daycare is. And when my kids were little, we didn't have the internet. So, having a business as easily as we have it now wasn't really a thing. And just really, truly looking at it like, oh, okay. And if you can do all of that, why can't you do all of this?
Yeah.
That's what I do. I'll go back and look at all the things I've done. Oh, wow. And my nervous system goes, oh, you know what? You did all these things. And so why can't I do all of this? And the answer is you can.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Anything else that you want to add or say that we didn't talk about?
We've covered a lot.
I know.
And both of us could go on and on and on and on and on. No, I mean, just exactly those three things, right?
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up, give yourself credit, and for the love of everything, go know your numbers. I mean, just, even if it's just a small thing, or even if it's just gratitude and saying thank you and just, start. The key is to start. Don't go, you don't have to do both, but just start moving in that direction and getting curious, and reminding yourself that you're safe and that you're okay. And then gradually, or if you're good, oh, okay, this didn't work. This was good. This didn't, I didn't catch on fire or whatever it is we think we're going to do.
We think we're going to do.
I can add another one, right? And just keep adding.
Yeah, I love it. Where can people find more about you and connect with you, Lisa?
You can find me on my website, thesassywealthcoach.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram. The handle is at the Sassy Wealth Coach.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm all over. I also have a free Facebook group, the Sassy Wealth Collective. Wealth Queen Collective. And it's for women entrepreneurs, for us to build our wealth and, lift each other up. And if you go to the website, there's a free offer there that you'll be able to get, and it'll help you on your way.
Oh, love it. Thanks, Lisa, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Cash and Sass. Don't forget to grab your free Wealth Wins checklist at transcendentwealthco.com. And while you're there, check out how we're helping entrepreneurs like you build unapologetic, bankable wealth. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a drop of this money magic, and leave a review to help us spread the wealth revolution. Remember, your money can be bold, sassy, and sexy. Until next time, keep cashing in with confidence.